Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are now joined by Mike Stella. Excited to have him here, turning your travel dreams into beautiful memories with Stellar Travel. Welcome to the show today, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
Pleasure to have you here. Excited to talk about all you do and, of course, get to know you. Mike Stella, tell us how we can contact you to start. Give us a phone number or social media page. How can we reach out to you?
317-490-3353 is the phone number. I have two email addresses. The company email is Stellar Travel, STELLAR travel @comcast.net. My personal email is MIKE-16215 @comcast.net.
Beautiful.
We have a website that is stellartravel.agentstudio, but we're in the process of replacing it with a new one, which is still under construction and should come online in about 10 days.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited to have you here, and I would love to find out more about you. So you're based out of Noblesville, Indiana, correct?
Correct.
Specializing this travel agency in, well, you say cruises, both river and ocean, but all-inclusive resorts, Mexican Riviera, the Caribbean, and so much more. Before we get to all the travel, I want to know a little bit about yourself. Could you share a little bit of your background and, where you got started? Because I know you had a whole nother career.
Yeah, for 40 years, I owned an audio video business here in the central Indiana area, just north of Indianapolis. One of the primary incentives that audio video manufacturers used to use to get you to buy more, it was trips. We'll send you to the factory. Well, at the factories in Denmark or factories in Japan or wherever, or Europe, with SoundPro, which was the company that I owned for 40 years, we were one of the more respected companies, and we did an awful lot of business. And as a result, with the incentives, I've traveled all over the world.
Wow.
So when I sold the company and tried to retire for a while, then finding that that just wasn't my thing, I started a travel business.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. This is exciting work for someone who, I said, I'm a mom with a 7 and 9-year-old. I love traveling. It's harder to do with kids, but I also know that you have kids of your own, right? Are you a grandpa too?
No, no, unfortunately. I had a son and I have a daughter.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your son. Can I ask how old your daughter is?
Yeah, she's 53 now, I think. She lives with us, and she takes care of her mom and me very well.
God bless. Tell me about your wife.
Well, been married for 59 years.
Wow.
It helps if you marry a masochist, because you have to be a glutton for punishment to put up with me for that long.
Yes. Aw.
We were
And
both
go ahead.
we were both students at Purdue.
Ah, is that how you met?
Yeah, in speedy reading class. And we each had our carousels back to back. And when every Thursday they had a movie on the screen, and what it was a page of a book with just one line highlighted and it moved down the page at a certain speed. Well, we would pull our chairs out and we wound up sitting side by side. And so about the third movie, Thursday, I leaned over. I said, "Did you bring the popcorn?" And she said, "No." "Do you have any butter?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, what good would the popcorn be?" And the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. So that's amazing. So you started up and you said you didn't have much. You had to overcome some serious obstacles, right? You said you only had $50.
I started the audio video business fresh out of Purdue with $50 in my pocket and no ability to borrow. My first loan, I had to put up my darling's engagement ring as collateral.
Oh my gosh.
And I started out by managing a record shop for
Oh,
a
wow.
company. It was the largest record shop in the city. And they had lots of empty space in this facility. And so I made a deal to see if I can't put my audio video equipment in there and sell it. And that's basically how it evolved. A year and a half later, the record company, the music company that owned the record company went out of business. So I took over the record company. And now the record company was all mine. And again, I did this without any money.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
uh, but if you work hard, the chances are you'll really get ahead.
Beautiful. Well, when did you start the travel business? Now, let me just fast forward to that. What year?
About 2005, 2006, right in there.
Wow. And it was your love of travel that started you with this passion. Where did you start traveling to?
Well, my first trip was a cruise. My first trip after Sound Pro, okay,
Mm-hmm.
was a cruise, and it was my first cruise.
Okay.
I was doing a complete audio video system with video theater and everything. It was about a $300,000 job for a client on an island off of Fort Myers. And he would fly me down to set things up and whatnot. So one time when I flew down, I decided, well, I'm going to take a few extra
Mm-hmm.
days, and I drove down to Miami, hopped the cruise ship,
Oh my
and for
gosh.
the rest, as they say, is history. I've had 18 cruises under my belt by now.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So cruises, we're talking river cruise. How many countries have you been to? Let's start there.
It would almost be easier to say how many countries have I not been.
Perfect. Then tell me.
Well, except for Africa, the only African country that I've been to is Morocco.
Wow.
Um, the I've been all over Europe, and I've been all over the Caribbean, the South, the West, and the East Caribbean islands. I've been to all of them.
Amazing. Was there what's on the bucket list? You must still have a bucket list, right?
Yeah, well,
Mm.
at this point, it's kind of hard, for an 85-year-old with one leg to go cruising. And I promised my wife I would never travel uh, alone anymore, and she won't travel.
Yeah.
So that creates a crimp. Um,
So you
I,
did most of your traveling without her?
yeah, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Well, some of the incentive trips that I took during Sound Pro days. Like she went to Denmark with me twice,
Mm-hmm.
Sweden and Liechtenstein and Italy.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've had a pretty good time.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how it works. So we could be anywhere, and Stellar Travel can help us book a cruise, right? Let's talk about some of the river and ocean cruises you have coming up. Anything in particular that you wanted to highlight for today?
Well, the most popular
Mm-hmm.
is the one that Johann Strauss wrote about, the Blue Danube. Oh, and it goes from Budapest up to Vilshofen, Germany. It can go further. In the other direction, it can go all the way to Bucharest, but uh, it's a beautiful, beautiful cruise. Uh, we went to we flew into Budapest, and on the third day we were in Vienna,
Wow.
and we sat for a uh, orchestra concert, full symphony orchestra held in a palace. And this was the most exquisite setting I've ever seen in my life. And that was a thrill. Uh, so
Well,
well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, no, I can't believe it. I've never done a river cruise. I've done ocean cruises like the Royal Caribbean and Norwegian and some of those lines. You work with all different types of ships?
Everyone. Oh, river cruises are different. Okay. Your first impression is that river cruises are a lot more expensive. But when you start to set it up to compare apples to apples, it's not that way. Uh, for example, with river cruises, just about every cabin is a balcony cabin.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to compare it with a balcony cabin on your cruise ship. Well, that jumps the price up from an interior or an ocean view cabin
Yeah.
pretty significantly. Now,
Wow.
on a river cruise, you have gourmet dining every night. And on an ocean cruise, to get gourmet dining from some of the premium restaurants, you'll pay anywhere from $40 to $75 a person for that. Well, that's all included in a river cruise. All the beer and wine you can drink at meals
Wow.
are included. All of the excursions are all included in a river cruise. So when you add it up, it comes out, pretty close.
Well, let me also ask you about some of the all-inclusive resorts that you offer. You have a lot of, I'm sure contacts. What type of locations? I was reading about the Mexican Riviera, Caribbean. Could you share some of this?
Yeah. Well, the primary location in the Mexican Riviera is Cancun, which everybody's heard of.
Yes.
But there's also Puerto Vallarta, there's Cabo
Mm-hmm.
Lucas, so there, and Mazatlan. So there are several other locations. I just booked a couple into a resort in Cancun in Riviera Maya.
Mm-hmm.
The uh, property has 10 restaurants
Wow.
on site.
I love those
And of course, it's
all-inclusives.
on the beach, so that's a beautiful way to spend 6 or 7 days.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. This is beautiful. Let me ask, in the Caribbean, what type of resorts are we talking about there too?
Well,
Could you share some of the names or?
sure. Well, you have uh, resorts in Jamaica, Punta Cana,
Mm-hmm.
and of course all over Mexico, as I mentioned, uh, and Aruba. Uh, there are no all-inclusive resorts in St. Thomas. Uh, that you pay by the you pay
Mm-hmm.
as you go if you want St. Thomas. But a lot of the resorts are chains. The
Yeah.
Bureau Star is one of them. El Dorado is another one. There are probably a Charisma is another. Uh, I just when you're online like this, your mind goes blank.
That's
Uh,
okay. It
I
happens.
can't think of all of the rest of them, but there are probably a dozen chains that have resorts all over. So you could go to a Charisma in Punta Cana or
Ooh.
in Aruba or
Ooh.
in Cancun or Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta. Um,
Well, I think this is amazing. I'm also on Yelp and I'm checking out some of your reviews. Pretty fascinating, that you have a lot of happy customers, which I think is always important to talk, about. Let me ask you, this person says, let's say, Missy R. It's my first cruise. I'm so glad that Mike from Stellar Travel arranged everything for me and my three friends I was traveling with. He was very experienced with cruises, was able to coordinate all the details so that we enjoyed a great vacation on the wonderful Emerald Princess. For example, I never would have thought about arranging a private van to pick us up at our hotel, take us to the port. I have just called an Uber, but Mike arranged for an excellent van service to arrive in front of our hotel at the perfect time to get us to our ship. The driver was excellent. He arrived 15 minutes early, so we didn't have to worry. He easily loaded our 8 bags into the vehicle and had plenty of room for the four of us traveling to the port. Mike provided a great checklist and plenty of tips and information for first-time cruisers. Greatly appreciated. Now, after the cruise, Mike arranged for a private vehicle to pick us up and take us to the airport. We didn't have to wait in line with hundreds of others to get on the Princess buses for the trip, and they're already working on planning their next trip. Talitha says, I've worked with this company, found that Mike is honest, very responsive to request details. Highly would recommend him if you're looking for an European vacation, all-inclusive vacation, or a type of cruise. Let me ask you about European vacations. What's in your background there, by the way?
well, like I said, I've been all over Europe. My favorite place is my
Aw.
country of origin, which is Italy. I say origin. I'm first generation American, but all grandparents were from Italy. Uh, and I think Rome and Venice are my two favorites. Oh, but of course, those are the workhorses of Italy. Everybody goes to Rome and Venice. Um, uh, an interesting little anecdote. When my
Mm-hmm.
mother was 10 years old, my grandparents took her to Italy and took her to a service uh, that was
Oh, wow.
performed by the Pope. And the
Okay.
Pope stopped and talked to my
Aw.
grandparents and my mother, which was kind of interesting. My grandfather was a furrier, and here was
Wow.
my mother, 10 years old, with a beautiful fur coat. And the Pope had never seen anything like that before. So,
Can I ask you about Greece? I saw some of your beautiful your advertisement, like some of the pictures. I'm assuming you've been to Greece, right?
oh, yes.
Okay. Mykonos,
Yeah.
Athens. Where's the hot spot in Greece?
Well, I certainly
Hmm.
enjoyed Santorini, which is one of the hot spots.
Hmm.
I don't remember going to Mykonos. So, I'm sure I did not. I've spent a lot of time in Athens. I got to see the Areopagus,
Ooh.
which is where the Apostle Paul uh, spoke to the Athenians. Now, the Areopagus is nothing but a giant rock.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a good view of that. And I had a good view of the various temples and things that Athens is known for. So that was a lot of fun and very interesting. Um, um, there are several ways to do Greece. One
Mm-hmm.
of the best ways is on a cruise ship. You'll do
Okay.
the Greek Isles, Mykonos,
Ooh.
Santorini,
Ooh.
Athens, and Crete, and
Yeah.
Rhodes, so on. And the nice thing about that, instead of hopping from
Hmm.
hotel to hotel, is that you only unpack once. You know, you're
True.
on a cruise ship. It's basically a very large yacht.
Mm-hmm.
It is gorgeous.
Love it.
And the food is great.
Oh,
The, uh, Again, you get to sample all of the Greek wines and the various Greek specialty foods and whatnot. So that's a very popular trip. So probably the second most popular location in Europe.
is Italy the first?
Yep.
Ah, what are
Yep.
the highlights of Italy? What type of cruises do you offer or packages? What are the hot cities?
Well, you don't cruise to Italy.
Okay, didn't know that.
Because if you're on a cruise ship and it shows you one of the stops is Rome, what they don't tell you is that
Yeah.
you have to port at Civitavecchio, and that's a 90-minute drive to get to Rome. So if you're going to want to do Italy, the best way to do that is on a tour.
Mm.
There's only one cruise ship that does any part of Italy. It's a river cruise ship, and it's from Uniworld, which is one of the brands that we represent. And it's the only uh, brand that I'm aware of that does Italy.
Wow.
Uh, from Milan to, I think, Rome. So, but that, yeah, to do Italy, or Greece for that matter, unless you're gonna, because with Greece, you have a lot of aisles, the Greek.
Yeah.
So you can do that on a cruise ship, but not so much with Italy. The only place you can port, and that's coming to a halt right now because of the over tourism in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I had a wonderful trip back in 2012, I think it was. I flew into Paris and spent 3 days in Paris. Then
Amazing.
took the Channel to London. That's the high-speed train. It goes underneath the English Channel. And spent a day and a half in London. Then took the bus up to Southampton, where I boarded the Queen Elizabeth
Mm-hmm.
for a 9-day cruise
Wow.
off the Spanish coast, hit all of the ports on the Spanish coast. And that docked in Venice, spent a night on the Grand Canal, and then boarded another cruise ship and did the Greek Isles. And that was a wonderful trip, except for my last night in Athens. I slipped on the pool deck
Oh no.
and fractured my fibula.
Oh no.
And I literally walked into the hospital in Venice. And the little Italian orthopedic surgeon lady said, well, you fractured your fibula. Do you want to do surgery here or wait till you get back to the States?
Oh my goodness.
And since I was on a plane in 36 hours,
Yeah.
I opted to wait. I had taken my stupid pills that morning,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that with the travel insurance package that I had, I could have stayed in Italy, had the surgery there, recuperated for an extra week, and it would have all been covered by my travel insurance. But anyway, that was a lapse in memory.
Wow.
I got back to the States and I got the wrong doctor, and he put me in a walking boot and then told me you're good to go after 7 weeks.
Wow.
And ankle collapsed and the fracture collapsed and it crushed the ankle. And ultimately, after 2 gigantic surgeries to try and reconstruct the ankle, they did a below the knee amputation. So
Oh my goodness.
now I have a peg leg.
Well, I appreciate you being here, sharing your story, your pain, the highs, the lows, your old business, this business, and the fact you still love doing what you do. And unfortunately, we're out of time, Mike. How do we contact you?
Preferably by email, and tell me what your heart's desires are, and I'll try to turn them into memories for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here. One more time, tell us the phone number, 317-490-3353.
Correct.
And Sailor Travel. The website's under construction. But you can go to the Facebook page. I saw that. That's out there.
Yeah.
And Yelp, he's got plenty of reviews. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here, for joining us. And I hope we get to connect again next week.
All right.
Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day, okay?
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.